Welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we explore thrilling, mysterious, and emotional cases from the real world. Today we dive into the heartbreaking yet important story of Misty Morse's life and her quest for justice. Stay tuned. Merritt Island, a picturesque city in Florida, is home to fewer than 30,000 residents. Nestled on a slender peninsula between the east-flowing Banana River and the west-flowing Indian River, this peaceful location is distinguished by its unique riverside features. Instead of typical suburban lawns, many homes have docks that extend into the waterway, reflecting the community's passion for water recreation. On the afternoon of July 23, 2000, a resident enjoying the quiet on his dock made a heartbreaking discovery. Around 4 p.m., they discovered something unusual floating on the water. They initially believed it was a manatee, a common sight in the area. However, upon closer inspection, the shocking truth emerged: it was a human body. Realizing the seriousness of the incident, people quickly contacted local authorities. The police arrived swiftly, their sirens piercing through the quiet morning as they reached the water's edge. With practiced precision, they carefully began the process of removing the body from the water, fully aware of the importance of preserving any potential evidence that could be crucial to the investigation. The team worked methodically, their movements deliberate and measured to avoid disturbing the scene more than necessary. As the body was finally brought ashore, investigators were confronted with a harrowing and disturbing sight. The victim, a young woman estimated to be between 20 and 25 years old, was found with long brown hair that had a distinct reddish tint, now matted and clinging to her lifeless form. Her naked body was a tragic tableau of violence and cruelty. The white tape that bound her mouth was grimly effective, rendering her unable to cry for help in her final moments. Her hands and feet were tightly bound with coarse rope, evidence of the brutal restraint she had suffered. Nearby, a supermarket package lay in tatters, seemingly attached to the body. The package was severely damaged, its contents likely having been dense and heavy, possibly rocks or some other form of weight. The ruptured bag suggested that it had originally served as a means to keep the body submerged in the water. As the bag fell apart, it may have allowed the body to float to the surface, thereby exposing the grim evidence of the crime. The lack of clothing and any form of identification posed a significant challenge for the detectives, complicating their efforts to identify the victim. The cruel nature of the crime, combined with the absence of identifying markers, made the investigation all the more difficult. However, the gruesome details of the scene painted a clear picture of a violent end. The circumstances surrounding the body, its bindings, the taped mouth, and the heavy package suggested a methodical and premeditated act of violence. The detectives knew that unraveling this case would require meticulous work, piecing together fragments of evidence to uncover the truth behind this tragic and brutal crime. A few days after the discovery of the body, it was transported to the forensic laboratory for a thorough examination. The forensic team, working meticulously to uncover the details of the victim's death, conducted a range of tests and analyses. The results confirmed that the body had been submerged in the water for less than 72 hours, a timeline that provided some insight into the victim's final moments. Upon closer examination, it was found that the victim's internal organs showed no signs of trauma. There were no gunshot wounds, stab injuries, or other marks consistent with blunt force trauma. These findings effectively ruled out death by gunfire or stabbing, narrowing the potential causes of death to strangulation or drowning. The forensic evidence, combined with the lack of visible external injuries, suggested that the victim's death might have been the result of suffocation or being held underwater. An important observation was the absence of defensive injuries. There were no broken nails, bruised fingers, or any other signs that the victim had fought back against an attacker. This indicated that the victim was likely caught off guard, which could imply that she might have known her attacker or was taken by surprise. Further examination revealed the presence of nautical ropes, including specific types of knots such as cow knots, which are commonly associated with maritime activities. The use of such specialized knots suggested that the perpetrators had some level of expertise in nautical or maritime skills, possibly indicating connections to professions like those in the Coast Guard or the United States Navy. With numerous questions still unanswered and the investigation at a critical juncture, the authorities shifted their focus to identifying the victim. Utilizing advanced DNA and fingerprint analysis, the forensic team worked diligently to match the remains to known individuals. Their efforts were successful, leading to the identification of the victim as Misty April Morse, a 22-year-old resident who lived approximately 20 miles from the crime scene. Misty April Morse's identification brought a new dimension to the investigation. Her background, relationships, and activities were now subjects of intense scrutiny. The investigators hoped that uncovering details about her life would provide clues to unravel the mystery of her death and bring the responsible individuals to justice. The investigation continued with renewed urgency as authorities sought to piece together the remaining elements of this tragic and perplexing case. The news devastated Misty's family. Her mother, who last saw her daughter on the evening of July 20th, was stunned. Earlier that day, Misty had inquired about her mother's appearance, hinting at plans that would soon turn tragic. After receiving the phone call, she went to another room. When she returned, she told her mother that she had to go and promised to come back the next morning. At first, her mother was not too worried, thinking that Misty could spend the night at a friend's house, like before. However, as days passed without her daughter saying anything, worry began to take root. On the third day of silence, she was about to file a missing persons report when the police arrived at her door with heartbreaking news. The identity of the caller who spoke to Misty remains a mystery, leaving a haunting void in the investigation. As authorities continue to piece together the events that led to her death, they face the daunting task of uncovering the truth behind this tragic loss and bringing justice to Misty April Morse. As the investigation into the tragic death of Misty April Morse unfolded, one important aspect became clear: the timing of her last phone call was crucial. These calls occurred shortly before her death, causing detectives to scrutinize their details. Historically, investigations faced challenges due to the limited technology available in 2000, making it difficult to effectively trace calls. However, the nature of Misty's last two calls provided valuable insight into her final moments. According to Misty's mother, the last two calls were received just before she went missing. The first call lasted a few minutes, while the second call came about 30 minutes later and lasted less than a minute. Detectives deduced that in the first call, Misty may have arranged a meeting, and in the second call, someone instructed her to leave the house, hinting that someone was waiting for her outside. Detectives asked Misty's mother for assistance in locating her daughter's room, expecting the search for any clues to be routine. However, they were stunned to see that Misty's wallet was still in the room. It seemed like she wasn't going to leave without it, which further reinforced the notion that she intended to leave quickly to attend this mysterious meeting. The purse was examined, and while most of its contents were scattered on the floor, her phone and driver's license were missing, suggesting she had brought those items with her, possibly is for communication and identification purposes. Further investigations led detectives to question Misty's mother about any individuals her daughter may have come into contact with on the night of her murder. Several names were offered, but one individual stood out: Teddy Underwood. His background caught the attention of investigators. Teddy has a criminal record with multiple convictions, including theft and assault on a woman. What's alarming is that Misty met him about 2 months before her death, raising concerns about the nature of their relationship. Detectives located Teddy and brought him in for questioning. Their goal is to discover the extent of his connection to Misty. During the interview, it became clear that Teddy was introduced to Misty through his sister, who worked with her. Their relationship briefly blossomed, but ended just 2 weeks before her murder. When asked about their future plans, Teddy's answer suggests that their intentions are normal at that time. Misty was not actively looking for a serious partner. When the detectives asked for more details, Teddy appeared calm, carefully avoiding any confession that could implicate him. Realizing the need to change strategy, detectives resorted to deception, claiming that there was no DNA evidence linking them to the murder. To increase the pressure, they asked Teddy to take a saliva sample, considering it a routine procedure. Despite the underlying tension, Teddy complied without protest, seemingly unaware of the detectives' tactics. Samples have been collected and sent for analysis, and detectives are eagerly awaiting the results. Meanwhile, they continued to investigate his whereabouts around the time Misty went missing, looking for any connection that could explain the presence of nautical ropes and cow knots found on the victim's body. In an effort to gather further evidence, detectives requested permission to search Teddy's home. He agreed without hesitation, without the need for an arrest warrant, which increased the detectives' suspicions. As they conduct their search, they hope to uncover any additional evidence that might link him to Misty's murder, while also resolving the complexities of the case, which has been unraveled so much in weeks after her death. The investigation now revolves around the results of DNA analysis and a potential link between Teddy Underwood and the tragic events leading up to the murder of Misty April Morse. As each layer of the case is peeled back, the detectives remain determined to uncover the truth and bring justice to Misty and her grieving family. As the investigation into Misty April Morse's murder progresses, detectives continue to search for suspects among her acquaintances. Unfortunately, no incriminating evidence was discovered during the search of Teddy Underwood's apartment. Furthermore, Teddy does not own a yacht or participate in any military service, which reduces the possibility of his involvement. With no obvious suspects in sight, the police turned their focus back to Misty's group of friends. Next on their list is a man named Bobby Cooper, whose interest in Misty has attracted the attention of investigators. According to Misty's mother, Bobby Cooper was interested in pursuing a romantic relationship with her daughter, despite her lack of interest. The week before her death, the two went out drinking and watching a movie together for Misty. It was a normal outing with a friend, but Bobby developed feelings for her. Detectives went to Bobby's house to ask him to come to the station for questioning. When they arrived, they noticed a small boat parked next to the dock in his backyard. This detail aroused suspicion, as it raised the possibility that Misty's body may have been thrown into the water from this same boat. Reluctantly, Bobby goes to the station for questioning. During the interview, he expressed his sadness over Misty's death. He admitted to having strong feelings for her and confirmed that he tried to arrange a second date, calling her every day until he learned of her murder from their mutual friend, Randy. When detectives asked him about the last time he saw Misty, Bobby recalled their outing Tuesday. "We went out for a few drinks and then went home and watched a movie." His emotional state is clear, but his narrative seems consistent. As the detectives continued their questioning, Bobby surprised them by presenting Misty's driver's license, which they had failed to find during a search of her room. He claims that Misty gave him her license a week ago on their date because she was wearing a dress with no pockets. Despite the obvious red flags surrounding Bobby, detectives decided to search his house. However, they did not find anything suspicious. Additionally, Bobby's baldness makes it unlikely that he was the source of the dark blonde hairs found on the duct tape used to bind Misty. Therefore, Bobby was eliminated from the suspect list. As the detectives finished their conversation with Bobby, he offered a potentially valuable lead. "You might want to investigate Misty's ex-boyfriend. I only know his name, Brent." This suggestion piqued their interest, and the detectives quickly turned their attention to Brent Huck, Misty's former partner. Brent was 28 years old at the time of the investigation, and his relationship with Misty had ended about a year earlier. Misty's mother described their time together as tumultuous, noting that Brent often displayed aggressive behavior and sometimes used force during arguments. Such characteristics alerted investigators, making Brent a person of interest. Digging deeper into his background revealed even more disturbing details. Brent had previously served in the Navy, which would have equipped him with the knowledge of how to tie a knot. Knots in the rope binding Misty's arms and legs. In addition, he worked as a charter boat captain, further strengthening his connection to the boating community and raising suspicions that he may have dumped Misty's body from a boat. The police decided to visit Brent. As they approached his house, they were greeted by a large black Rottweiler dog. Brent later explains that the dog was a gift from Misty throughout their relationship. With a renewed focus on Brent Huck, detectives prepared for what could be a significant confrontation, eager to discover more about his involvement in the tragic events surrounding the death by Misty. Brent Huck, Misty April Morse's ex-boyfriend, quickly became the focus of the investigation following revelations about their relationship. Although they broke up about a year ago, Brent confirmed that he and Misty are still good friends and continue to spend time together. However, detectives noted his unusually cold demeanor when discussing Misty, seemingly showing no real remorse for her death. This raises further doubts about his involvement. During questioning, detectives asked Brent if he called Misty the night she was murdered. He confirmed that there was, explaining that he was at home and received distressing news from friends. Misty had allegedly told someone that she was pregnant with his child. This statement stunned him and incited anger, as he felt she should have revealed such important news to him first. Brent described the argument that followed during their phone call. He expressed his disappointment, but about half an hour later, he called her again, this time calmer, and tried to reassure her that they could work things out. However, detectives obtained important information that contradicted Brent's beliefs. Misty's autopsy confirmed that she was not pregnant. This discrepancy suggests a possible motive for the murder. Brent's anger about the supposed pregnancy may have motivated him to eliminate what he saw as a threat to his life. When detectives prepared to search Brent's home, he did not resist. During their search, they made alarming discoveries. First, they found white duct tape that was very similar to the tape used to bind Misty's mouth and eyes. Next, they discover a package from a public store, similar to the package found on Misty's body. These items raised serious alarm for investigators. Detectives' investigation expanded to the area of Brent's marina, where they recruited a team of forensic divers to search the waters around his dock. Their efforts paid off when they recovered clothes and ropes from the river bottom. The rope was tied with the same knot as the one used to bind Misty's arms and legs, providing further evidence of Brent's possible involvement. With these findings, the lead detective became more and more convinced that Brent Huck was the person who committed the murder. The combination of motive, opportunity, and physical evidence found on his property painted a disturbing picture. Detectives know they must confront Brent with this evidence to unravel the truth behind the tragic death of Misty April Morse. As the investigation deepens, they prepare for a decisive confrontation that may finally lead them to justice for Misty and her grieving family. As the investigation into Misty April Morse's murder progresses, the evidence against Brent Huck begins to paint a disturbing picture. He fit the profile of the type of person the police were looking for: a sailor familiar with tying knots, an ex-boyfriend who had spoken to Misty shortly before her death, and a man capable of approaching the boat from which she could have been thrown. Water. The presence of white duct tape in his house and matching rope in his dock further reinforced police suspicions. Yet despite these alarming coincidences, the evidence remains only circumstantial. Brent's lawyers could easily challenge the authenticity of this evidence in court. One important piece of evidence still missing is the black hair found on the tape used to bind Misty. Brent's hair is cut too short. His natural hair color is light, not black, so it cannot be compared. At this time, the detective came up with a breakthrough idea: hair does not necessarily belong to one person. This realization reminded me of Brent's black Rottweiler named Chiba. The detective speculated that the hair most likely belonged to the dog. Acting on this hunch, he insisted on getting a DNA sample from Chiba. When the lab results came back, they confirmed the detective's theory: hairs taken from Brent's dog matched those found on the duct tape used to bind Misty's eyes. This revelation became pivotal in the case against Brent Huck. Although the presence of duct tape, bags, and ropes could similarly be explained, the connection between the dog's hair and the evidence found at the crime scene is undeniable. This unique link means that the duct tape used in the crime actually came from Brent, leading the detective to a convincing conclusion: Brent Huck is guilty of murder. This discovery finally provided the necessary grounds for his arrest. The trial took place in 2003, 3 years after Misty's tragic death. During the proceedings, the match between the dog's DNA and the hair found on the tape emerged as a key piece of evidence. It proved instrumental in convicting Brent Huck of the murder of Misty April Morse. He was sentenced to life in prison, ensuring that he would pay for the crime he committed. The story of Misty April Morse serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the irreversible passage of time. Every moment is precious, and the importance of living in the present cannot be overstated. It emphasizes that, despite our best efforts, life can end suddenly and without warning, often leaving no opportunity for goodbyes or last words. As we reflect on this tragic case, we are reminded to cherish every moment and recognize the value of the time we have with those we love. Stay tuned so you don't miss other exciting and thrilling cases in this series.